talk to me today. As you may or may not know, I'm doing a short series of conversations about filling the gaps. And for me, it's about filling the gaps in the part of dentistry that isn't just about product or the parts of things that we do, but part of it is about who we work with and who we partnership with.
Sure.
You probably know that this year, in fact it'll be this November, is going to be my 27th year as a Straumann customer, which probably both ages me and also makes me sometimes stop and reflect a bit about why do we and I work with different people. And I thought it was worthwhile us just talking a little bit about perhaps the culture of Straumann and what is it that makes us or different people fit into a culture. I know a little bit about your past and your background. How long have you been in dentistry?
So I actually joined the dental industry in 2002, and then dental implants specifically in 2006, and then I joined Straumann this year in January 2019. You and your team have taken out some time today to come to our office here at Straumann, and we've had a bit of a discussion about a number of items, but culture came up quite a lot, and I felt that was important to focus on as well. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
I think relationships, whether it be between myself and a patient, or myself and a referring practitioner, or actually as equally important somewhere, how do we decide who to work with? I think one of the reasons that I've always wanted to work and stay working with Straumann, despite so many different players, I'm sure as working within an organisation you become incredibly aware of the fact that you have competition. There was a time where there were very few implant players and then perhaps the market just exploded and has shrunk again a little bit. And I think for me, a reason with working with Straumann must be about culture. Innovation has always been a part of it, but backed again by a thoughtfulness. I think that's been borne out a little bit about our discussions today. So talking about an open and frank display of what we've been talking about, what happens in our practice. But I think something that's very refreshing for me talking with Straumann is that you are very open and frank about your products, where you feel comfortable, where you can advise us to use a specific item or not. Culturally, is that something that with Straumann it's set out clearly in stone? Is it something that you're allowed to perhaps create your own pathway with? How does it work with working with Straumann?
Well, as I mentioned, I joined Straumann in 2019 at the beginning of the year. It was the culture and the people that led me to join the organisation. I actually came across Straumann in a lot more detail in 2011 when the ITI, or 2010 I think, when ITI was in Liverpool. There was a meeting there. And that's when I first went along, met a whole bunch of people from Straumann who could not have been more welcoming to someone who actually worked for a competitor at the time. And I thought, wow, the people here really are amazing. Here we are now in 2019, and it's the cultural aspect that led me to join Straumann. Not just one person, but the people. When you join Straumann, certainly in the UK, you get exposed to the cultural journey almost from the get-go. Not just what it is on paper and defined in stone, but how it plays into our lives every day at Straumann Group, how your actions will impact other people in the organisation and how you can all better each other. That's important to me.
And challenging one another, is that easy? Is it difficult? Because particularly you having worked with a competitor and now seeing how Straumann works, is it a difficult thing to do to challenge a structure? Straumann now is a big company. I've watched it grow from being a relatively small player in the early days when people were perhaps curious or questioning about the thought of transmucosal implants.
Sure.
And probably because of Straumann, transmucosal has become the standard way of doing it. Coming from a competitor, there must have been times where you had seen either a different culture or even a different way of doing things. Is that something that's easy or difficult to challenge within an organisation?
The idea of challenging is actually incredibly interesting to focus on. It's something I had to shrug off when I joined Straumann, the idea that we have a hierarchy in place, but to challenge someone in a non-hierarchical way is accepted here. You can call out a colleague for some kind of behaviour that doesn't fit in with our core behaviours, or praise them regardless of their position. That's incredibly important. Having a voice within a room, regardless of your position within Straumann Group, is something I've seen and I believe in. To join the organisation from a competitor, that was a trickier one to deal with from the start, but it becomes second nature soon enough.
Because you came from somewhere with a different culture, or because you were taught to think about products? I think one of the things that perhaps impresses me about Straumann is that, of course, a commercial company has to have, and they need to shift product.
Sure.
But is that because the emphasis is on shifting product differently, or you are encouraged in a different way? I know I'm a strong advocate of how Straumann, we've talked today about educating our practice. You're going to come and visit our practice, give us some help and guidance in different areas. But where are the real challenges coming from another competitor and settling in with Straumann? Is it about product? Is it about your preconceived ideas, or what is it where's the challenge?
I think, just to pick up on that point you made just before your last point there, the idea of Straumann Group coming to your practice and advising you and helping you, it works both ways. We're learning from you at the same time, and that's key to our culture as well. It's a concept that's deep rooted in our culture. So whilst we're in there helping you and advising you, we're also learning from you too, whether that's direct learning or something a little bit more passive. So we're looking forward to that. To answer your last question, I think some of it was because of my preconceived notions of who I am, and I've learned more about myself since joining Straumann, and that's very genuine, than I have done ever in my career, and that's important to me, and that's helped me become a better person. That's not down to a few individuals within Straumann who I've met from the get-go. That's the culture coming into play, so it's the people I work with day to day driving that within me. From a competitor point of view, there's a lot of focus on the product. Like you said, shifting product is important. Making sure you reach your target, your deliverables, that's important to any commercial organisation. But with Straumann Group, it's different. There are commercial objectives for sure, but it's about the people. That comes first and foremost. And if you look at our strategic objectives, people come first, and that shines from the start.
We talked a little bit earlier about teacher-learner concept. How does that come into play with what you do on a daily basis at Straumann?
Yeah, so it's the concept that you're referring to.
Tell me about teacher learning.
We call it player learner, Simon, and it's fine, teacher learner, player learner, but player learner is kind of what we referred to just a few moments ago, where you're requesting that we would come down to your practice and help you and advise you with the matters we spoke about not too long ago. But we'll be learning from you at the same time, so we're not making assumptions, we're not being unable to adapt or unwilling to be agile. We're willing to learn from each other and adapt our behaviour accordingly.
Well, I have to say we're looking forward to it enormously to tighten the relationship with us and Straumann. For us is a really good thing, with you now diversifying some of your products. I think that's going to be good for us to have some education there, and again share back some of our experience with you. So Gurpreet, I'm going to say thank you so much for just spending a few minutes in your busy day.
Yeah, Simon, thank you. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you very much.